All right, welcome everybody to the weekly review. Today I'm going to cover over the trades that I took this week, my expectations for the following week, and then if you guys have any questions, we can cover those as well. So this week I took one trade. It was a break-even trade. It was a short on euro, and I'll show you guys why. So if we're looking at market profile on euro on a weekly chart, we are seeing that on a weekly perspective, we are respecting bearish key levels, breaking lows, and rejecting highs, right? So on a weekly perspective, we are bearish, meaning every pump into a weekly level, I expect to reject, okay? We saw that we had a weekly order block here, as well as this weekly order block is a daily breaker, okay? So this wick here, okay? So I expected that this was to hold to deliver to dollars higher time frame target, which was eventually met here. All right. Now, if we go down to a hourly chart, we can see at the start of the week, if we mark 1700, okay, we pumped into this high, or into this key level, excuse me. We created a high and we souped it inside of London. Okay. So my entry was right around here. Stop loss above the breaker. All right. Now, the reason that this wasn't a successful trade was because price ranged, we expanded, we got good delivery, and then we came all the way back without taking this high again. Okay. So just unfavorable action, I would say in general. This obviously is something you do not want to see when you're in a trade, is a expansion, a full retracement, shifting order flow again, and then for us to just sell. So this is a fine break even by me. Again, following rules. I guess for the new members here, we haven't talked about trade management too much, but we create a liquidity pool inside of a key level. We purge it, we shift, we create, and we tap opposing key levels. I break even, and then unfortunately this week we just had a very, very deep retracement. All right, not much you can do about that, but trade management was on point as always, and it was an A+ setup. All right, another good setup this week, I thought, if you were to take this, was the Tuesday short, just following order flow off of the 4-hour gap in the 4-hour order block. Nothing wrong with this as well. I think those were both fine setups. Did anyone manage to catch this move here? If it wasn't FOMC, could have held it. Yep, I agree. Yeah, just one of those weeks where super deep retracement, price action is unfavorable, and not much you can do about it, right? As long as you positioned yourself correctly, that's all you can ask. And I think outside of it being FOMC week, Monday should have expanded here. There was no reason for this to shift up higher. Monday should have gone. Yep, control the input. Exactly. All right. But that was it for this week for me. Now, looking into next week, so Forex is a little bit interesting. If we go to the dollar here. Okay, so as you guys know, I am bearish on this year. This yearly candle, I'm bearish. So we have a few different key levels. We have a yearly order block, a quarterly order block, okay, which basically both coincide with this monthly breaker here, okay? So I'm expecting for one of these price levels to create some form of reversal lower, all right? Now, if we look at price currently on a daily chart, this quarterly order block does not currently look like it is going to hold. And to me, this is going to be where high of year is going to form. All right. Why do I say that? Well, we have expanded through this order block multiple times, and we're kind of consolidating at it, right? So instead of this looking like a reversal, this looks like the close of a bullish candle, right? So open, drop lower, expand, close. All right. So I will be expecting a further movement higher to this key level going into next week. All right. So if we can frame bullishness on dollar on a short-term perspective, we can say, okay, where can we be bullish from on dollar from? Well, we do have this order block, and again, order block slash breaker. This is in alignment with a gap here. And on euro, we also have a weekly order block, which again is also in alignment with that daily gap above here. Okay, so this is likely what I'm going to be looking to position myself in going into next week. Now, it is possible that instead of an open high on euro, we get an open low. And if we get an open low, that means on dollar, I'm likely to be looking for shorts inside of this key level. All right, so it kind of depends on how next week opens. We did have some over the weekend news about the Strait of Hormuz being closed again, which could cause some form of an opening gap. So that will definitely affect the analysis once we see where that goes as well. All right, but should be pretty clean again. Short-term bullishness on dollar until this yearly order block is met, and then likely to see some form of reversal starting to attack all of these 4-hour daily and weekly lows. All right. Any questions over Forex before I move to indices? Or does that all make sense? If you go on dollar, there's a gap above the breaker. Shouldn't stay unfilled. You mean here? I don't know what you're talking. Oh, you mean on the monthly? Yeah. Yeah, this gap, if this quarterly order block is to hold, this breaker should leave this high or this gap unfilled right here, which means this high shouldn't be met, which is why I'm looking for some form of reversal here. On dollar, once Monday hit key level, why you wouldn't expect a soup of the Monday candle? Because Monday's candle already had a turtle soup here. Right, when there's already a stop run inside the level, there doesn't need to be another one. Right, this is enough. Right, we put in a liquidity pool, we range, we soup. Right, this is the stop run that created this expansion. Right, so once this occurs, we should be in expansion mode. Right, you should be looking to sell. When we expanded through the high Monday, my mind went. Well, remember, Ben, follow and probe, right? What's the number one rule of order flow? It's follow and probe, right? Follow and probe market profile. So until this breaker gets expanded through, right? This is what your thought process should have been going into the week. I expect this to hold. Until this gets closed through, I'm going to anticipate that stop runs at key times are to hold, right? This should protect these highs from being taken, right? So if these are starting to get taken, if we're starting to push above this, that's the indication, okay, I'm wrong. But until that happens, you have to say, profile is bearish. I'm going to expect these bearish levels to hold. Yep, I got you. All right. But, so pretty clear analysis on Forex. Let's go over to NASDAQ. NASDAQ also looks actually pretty good. I was looking at this last week, so I called this long down here inside this weekly gap. Low that took a high. Again, just probing order flow. I noticed that we had a breaker here that got tapped with a soup on, I believe this was FOMC here. But after this soup, this shift, this come back into this order block here, especially this wasn't really a soup, but it would make sense for me that if we got one more stop run inside this order block and then ran higher. Okay, I would expect this next week again, just like all the weeks. Target opposing liquidity and expect likely higher expansions like this, right? But again, this daily order block here, and you can refine that obviously to the 4-hour order block. This looks like a good turtle soup candidate for the next expansion on NASDAQ. And then obviously if you want to see the same thing, clear this up. Same thing would be over here. We created this breaker here. We create a liquidity pool inside of it. Okay. And it is likely that possibly we could get some form of SMT like this while NASDAQ makes a higher high or a higher low, excuse me. All right. Let's go. What are the assets you guys want me to look at? Bitcoin. Oops. So for Bitcoin, again, I think there's two possible outcomes of Bitcoin, especially for everyone who's new here. Either the yearly gap or the yearly order block is going to create the low of year. Currently, this yearly gap, oops, we created a range inside of it right here, inside this yearly gap, but this current quarterly candle open high and stabbed into this breaker. So it wouldn't be the highest probability candle to want along the end of it, which is why I've kind of stayed out of Bitcoin here. Simply because you can kind of see, if we go to a monthly chart, this candle had open high, tapped the breaker, and expanded lower. So looking for some form of reversal here is a much lower probability than waiting for a new candle. So that's why I haven't personally touched Bitcoin. But just looking at structure, it does look like this order block is a possible candidate for the next target. So in the group chat was asked for AUD. Oh yeah, you're right. Well, AUD is the exact same thing. Let me remove this old alert. If we're looking for a higher target on dollar and then a possible reversal, you could be looking for a lower target on AUD and a possible reversal, right? Where could a reversal form on AUD if dollar is going to have a bearish reversal? Well, we have an order block, we have a liquidity pool, we have a range, okay? So you could be just like dollar, where I'd be short-term bullish until I'm bearish. I could be short-term bearish here until I'm bullish, right? Where could I be bearish from? Daily order block. Here's a liquidity pool. Short that until I could be bullish again. So a weekly order block, low inside of it, could be long. All right. Any other assets you guys want me to take a look at while I'm here? Should be a pretty clean analysis week. Again, we have to wait to see what the opening gap does on Sunday. Yeah, I can look at gold. Gold to me looks pretty bearish. Now we did tap into a quarterly level here. Okay, so we could possibly start seeing some movement higher here from this quarterly level. But even with that said, we are still respecting bearishness. Weekly gap held. This closed lower. This obviously is not respecting this daily CSD. So unless we get some form of actual shift, like let's say this high gets flipped, confirming that this is in fact the low, then I would say, okay, buy program has been initiated. We can start targeting these highs with confidence. But until then, it's just kind of iffier price action down here. Well, Jots, no one knows what the opening gap's going to be like. So that could completely affect dollar's bias, even Nasdaq's bias, right? We'll have to wait to see later today. Good, man. It's good to take some time off the screens, but ready to get back. Ready to get back in the routine. Too much relaxing for me. I don't like it. Yeah, I know, Jazz. Yes, sir. Well, again, should be a nice week coming up. I have high hopes for it, high expectations. So, again, we'll see what the opening gap brings. I'm going to close the OBS here.